This video has been a long time coming.
I don't like Dan personally.
I did not feel safe around Dan Schneider while I was working at Nickelodeon. Actually, every time he came on set, my body got extremely tense.
There's a lot of abuse that happens. I worked with an incredibly emotionally abusive producer.
We were then told to take off our shoes and that we were each going to go into a room to show the producer, who is Dan Schneider.
Schneider had been under a cloud of suspicion over the treatment of some younger stars of his show. Among the things that have raised eyebrows are his tweeted photos of the toes of his young female star.
You don't scare me, but you should feel me. The sun is setting, don't trust your hearing.
Hey everyone, welcome back, or if you're new here, welcome to my channel. I make content about lots of different things, so hello, welcome to the chaos. A quick disclaimer before we start, this video is just information I found online. Trigger warnings will be on screen now. Dan Schneider is an American television producer and former actor who worked for Nickelodeon for 30 years before his infamous departure from the network in 2018. Along with his short acting career in sitcoms like Head of the Class and a few films, he was most known for his work on popular Nickelodeon shows like All That, Kenan and Kel, iCarly, Drake and Josh, Zoey 101, and so many more shows that shaped many childhoods, millennial and Gen Z alike. He was the producer of nearly half of the programs airing during his time at Nickelodeon, so needless to say, he had quite a lot of power when it came to his shows. Schneider had a reputation amongst his peers and employees of being quite a character to work for. He was known to staff as being prone to outbursts at any point in time and would belittle them no matter what age. He also had a bad reputation with women, creating a hostile environment for them to work in, saying he would prefer not to have any women in the writer's room for his shows, and going as far as sexually harassing them at times. He was also known to make his staff stay on set for very long hours, repeating certain scenes over and over, doing take after take to get the perfect shot. Those perfect shots oftentimes would turn out with weird, inappropriate context to them, however. After multiple complaints of abuse by staff members, Nickelodeon parted ways with Schneider in 2018. Following many conversations together about next directions and future opportunities, Nickelodeon and our longtime creative partner Dan Schneider have agreed not to extend the current deal. Nickelodeon and Schneider said in a joint statement to Deadline, since several Schneider's Bakery projects are wrapping up, both sides agreed that this is a natural time for Nickelodeon and Schneider's Bakery to pursue other opportunities and projects. I should also mention Schneider's parting gift from the company was $7 million. These parting gifts are a very common theme among a lot of people who leave the network under mysterious circumstances. In fact, someone who recently spoke of a very similar offer is iCarly actress Jennette McCurdy. Recently, in August of 2022, Jennette McCurdy released her book titled I'm Glad My Mom Died. Jennette McCurdy, for those who may not know, is a former child actress best known for her role as Sam Puckett in iCarly, a very popular show for kids that aired from 2007 to 2012. In her book, McCurdy addresses various aspects of life as a child star, along with opening up about her trauma as a child abuse survivor. In this memoir, McCurdy talks about the inappropriate and frightening behavior of someone she names only as the creator of the shows that she was in as a child star, stating that the creator would frequently act inappropriately, even going as far as giving unsolicited shoulder massages and coercing her to drink while underage. Now, even though she never names the creator in question, it's very easy to see that she is clearly talking about Dan Schneider, as he is credited as being the creator of both iCarly and Sam and Cat. Jennette describes her time at Nickelodeon as something she would rather forget. I know Nickelodeon would rather she forget it, with which their offer of $300,000 to McCurdy to never mention any misconduct seems to imply. In not taking the obvious attempt to buy her silence, Jennette feels she has taken a path of moral integrity, a fact that I and many others are very proud of her for. Most would take the money and run, which seems to be the case with some others who have been very silent on any matter regarding the situation. It does make me wonder who took the hush money and who is still able to speak out if they need or want to. One thing about Jennette's career that seems to have been misconstrued at the time, though, was the supposed feud between her and her Sam and Cat co-star Ariana Grande. Around the time the show was canceled, there were rumors that McCurdy was upset that supposedly Ariana was making more money than she was. This seemed at the time to be corroborated by the press saying that Jennette did not attend the Kids' Choice Award that year because of the money issue. Coincidentally, this was the same year Dan Schneider would be given his Lifetime Achievement Award from Nickelodeon. At the time, McCurdy had made a statement about being put in an unfair and uncomfortable situation by the network and needing to look out for herself. Ariana made a statement herself about the matter, saying that she was not and did not think she should be making more money than McCurdy. Everyone thought it was just a money issue at the time, but what if it was something deeper? At the same time that this was all happening, Schneider had taken pictures of Jennette McCurdy's feet and posted them on his Twitter account for a contest for fans of the show Sam and Cat to guess whose foot this is. We'll talk more about Schneider's foot fetish and Nickelodeon's enabling of that behavior on set in part 2, but this was done without Jennette's consent, and therefore put her in an unfair and uncomfortable situation. Maybe it wasn't about the money at all. Maybe she had had enough. And maybe someone had just enough power to put out to the press that a little someone was just upset about money. But if she really wanted the money, why did she not take the hush money Nickelodeon offered around that same time? Jennette McCurdy is not the only person who has previously worked with Schneider to speak out about his behavior. In fact, a lot of others who were also teens when working with him have said some questionable things, some being very blatant about it, and others being much more subtle about the topic while still implying some disturbing details. Alexa Nikolas has been extremely vocal about her treatment by Dan Schneider on Zoey 101, in which she starred in 2 seasons that aired in 2005. Alexa has founded the Eat Predators movement because of the trauma she faced as a child star. The movement's main goal is to release these victims of these disgusting human beings from their NDAs so that they can begin to heal from the abuse. We'll talk more about that later. Alexa played Nicole, the adorably ditzy and slightly boy-crazy best friend and roommate of the main character Zoey. Although the two played very tight-knit characters, the reality of the situation on set was much different. In 2018, after not being included in the Zoey 101 reboot, Alexa took to Instagram Live with quite a lot to say about her time on the set of Zoey 101 back when she was just 13 years old. She does ramble quite a bit here, but I tried to cut it to the point as much as I could while still giving you guys context on what she's talking about. I'll leave a timestamp here if you want to skip forward.
From there.
Sure. Why did you leave Zoey 101?
It was awful. The experience on set ended up being drastically different than how I felt about Nicole. I got the show and was super excited. I was more excited to meet people my age because I was homeschooled a lot of my life. And there was a character on the show who played Dana. And Dana was older than us. And Dana played like kind of a mean girl kind of character. All right, so the last episode of the first season, there was an episode where we had to, me and Dana had to basically go behind a rock and then like emerge from behind these like huge rocks in Malibu, or Zuma Beach. I think it was Zuma Beach. We had to like come around them. And it was just me and her, and I was so nervous to be like alone with her because the cameraman and everybody else was very, very, very far away. But anyways, we go behind the rock, and there's nobody there, and she pushes me into the rocks. And, you know, just started telling me some, like, not so nice things, and I heard action, and then we had to, like, run and pretend we were, like, friends all of a sudden, which was a trip. And then afterwards, like, ran to my mom, and I told her, and then, you know, obviously she went to the adults of the show and told them, like, this is what happened, and why don't we just have a conversation about it? So my mom kept begging for a conversation, but nobody wanted to have the conversation. But I was like, okay, whatever. Everyone told me just to be professional. Like, that's what they tell kids, by the way. Like, you be professional. What the fuck is professional to a kid? I don't know. You know, what is, like, I don't even think I knew what that word was when they were telling me. I was like, professional. You know, okay, I'm just gonna smile, spend the whole time, I guess that's what it means, like, just to not pretend that nothing bad is happening, or you're not, like, feeling a certain kind of way. I was in my trailer with my mom, and usually when you're a minor on set, they have to bring you, they basically have to tell the guardian, which is your parent, exactly where they're taking you, and you can't take any detours because you're a minor. So like the first AD's job is to be like, okay, I'm taking her from this spot to makeup and hair.
Yes.
And so Ian was like, came to the trailer, knocked as usual, and was like, hey, I'm gonna take Alexa to makeup and hair, we're gonna start filming. Mom was like, cool, Alexa can go. So I'm walking with Ian, and he's like, wait, and like he kind of like went like this to me. He was like, Jamie wants to talk to you in her trailer. It seemed strange. I was like, okay, maybe she's finally down for the conversation though. Like maybe she's inviting me in and we're gonna settle. Like whatever, however she feels, she'll say however she feels and how I feel or whatever. And I was like, okay. And he's like, yeah, Jamie's in there, she's ready to talk to you. And I remember being like, maybe my mom should have known. Like why didn't he say to my mom that if he knew that the whole time that Jamie wanted to talk to me, like why didn't he tell my mom? And so I went up the stairs and I remember opening the door and I saw someone that looked like Jamie run to the back of the trailer. And she was the one who had the biggest trailer than all of us. She had like one of those big ones. And I was like, that's weird. Why is Jamie running? I like walk in and I think like, oh, maybe I'm supposed to like sit on the couch and like wait for her because like she ran to the back.
This is a completely empty, large trailer with the first AD by your side.
No, the first AD left me.
You just open the door.
I'm gonna go in there.
Just go in there.
With no guardian.
Okay.
That's what's... And that's... You can't do that on
So
set.
so there was no one, you walked in, no one's in there.
No one's in there. All of a sudden, I'll never forget the image because like Brittany just like came out and she was like kind of in just like a bralette. She like just ran at me and I don't want to go.
Ran at you?
Yeah, like this close and started like berating me and telling me that she was going to make sure that nothing came of my career. And she was like, nobody messes with my sister, and she's screaming at me, and then I started like getting sick to my stomach, and at the same time I'm thinking in my head like, oh, I loved Britney Spears when I was younger, and like she was somebody I looked up to at that time, so like to have her not like me felt awful. Like I all of a sudden was like, maybe I'm not somebody that should be liked, because if like my idol from when I was younger doesn't like me, like that sucks. Like what a horrible feeling. And so like all these things are going through my head, and like what did I do wrong? Like trying to figure it out. And then she was kind of grossed out by like me being sick, and like I was begging her to like get out of there, and she like finally like unlocks and she's like, go. And I like ran to my trailer, and I ran in and I went right to the toilet and I started puking. And my mom's like, what the hell is going on? She like comes behind me and she's like, Alexa, tell me what's going on. And surprisingly enough, it was our last day.
It was your last day of shooting.
Which is basically what Britney Spears was like telling me. It was like, after this, you're done.
Right.
Like,
and
I will make sure that nothing happens.
And then tell me about the experience when you were taken into the boardroom at Nickelodeon.
Well, let me rewind a little bit because I want to get to Dan.
Okay.
So it was I will never forget my mom's face because she just didn't know what happened to me, you know? And so I remember her like opening like the trailer and she's like screaming like Ian and like screaming Dan and just like screaming at me like, what happened to my daughter? And my mom was like, can you please get Dan? Get Dan here immediately, get the producers here immediately. Someone needs to figure out what just happened to my daughter. And we waited for a while, and the whole time my mom was like, what happened? I couldn't really tell her what happened. And I was like, I kind of almost want to wait because I remember hearing it in my mind, like I finally want the adults on the show to like understand what I'm going through. Like now this has escalated too far for me, and like I'm hoping somebody's gonna come now and be like, let's solve this problem. It's gone too far. Someone's being bullied on a regular basis. They've come out to you, like, you know, they've reached for help multiple times, and like now it's gone too far. So then finally Dan walks in. And Dan has not helped the entire time. And I don't feel comfortable going into details about what I've seen with Dan or like what Dan is. But he comes through and with a smirk on his face. And because he's known the entire time that it was leading to this. He could have prevented this. Like he could have stepped in and been like, let's be friends here. We're on a kid's show. Like let's be like, even though we're kids, like an adult should step in and be like, let's be friends. Like how can we settle this? But no, that never happened. And so Dan comes in with like a smirk on his face, which he always had with me, not a nice guy. Comes in and goes, what happened now with you, Alexa? As if it's my fault, like immediately. And I finally started to blurt out, like, what happened. And, like, what happened when I went into the trailer and what happened. And he was like, you have to go on set. You have to film this last scene. And, like, had no care. He's like, but I have something for you that will probably make you feel better. And I remember being like, what? Like, that's his response? Like, and he just pulls out, you know those, like, portable DVD players that you could, like, put a DVD in and watch?
Yes.
He, like, his assistant, like, passes me this DVD thing. And I'm just, like, sitting on the floor, like, I'm in the closet area, actually. So I was, like, so scared I was in the closet area. I'm, like, looking at this DVD player going, like, this fucking DVD player means nothing to me, dude. Like, what? So strange. He's like, okay, so now go on set and let's finish this scene and we'll talk about this later. And so yet again, as a kid, I have to, like, be professional, even though I'm distraught and horrified. And they're like, let's sit down with Alexa and, you know, hear her side of the story and, like, what happened and blah, blah, blah. And so my mom calls my lawyer, which I find out later was in cahoots with Nickelodeon. So she didn't have my best interest in mind. And they're like, yeah, just go and meet up with the execs. It's going to be totally fine. We get to Nickelodeon on Sunset, and there's all the execs there, including Dan, and they ask my mom if I can go in there alone. And my mom goes, no, absolutely not. And I remember going, like, yeah, Mom, like, she's not gonna, like, leave my side. Like, I'm afraid to be around any more adult. I'm afraid. And my mom goes, I have to call her lawyer first. We call my lawyer, and she ends up telling us that it's okay for me to go in there alone. It's like, oh, it's fine. Nothing's going to happen to Alexa. Like, the adults are going to handle this professionally. Like, I kept hearing that word, professional. Everyone's going to handle it professionally. Everyone has to handle things professionally. None of that was ever happening. I was like, Mom, I really don't want to go in there alone. She's like, I promise. These are adults now. Like, you're not dealing with Jamie. You're not dealing with, like, Dan's sometimes mean and, like, but, like, he has other people around him now, so everyone will be keeping a watch on this situation, this dialogue. And I go in there, and they literally sit me purposely. Here's a huge table that just, like, goes across, and then they have, like, one chair for me on the other side. And I'm like, go sit down, Alexa. And literally the chair was too big for me. I felt so small. I have, like, there's, like, 5 people in front of me that are all adults that are, like, Viacom and Nickelodeon, and Dan's right in the middle, so, like, directly across from me. Does not look happy. And basically they just went on this whole thing that it's not Nicole 101, it's called Zoey 101. If I wanted my own show, I should have went and got one. I have to basically be nice to I have to, like, handle whatever the lead character is dealing with because I'm a side character and I don't matter when it comes, like, in industry terms. I have to put on a good face, like, I can't take bull. It just, like, it went on and on and on. Like, maybe there was some truth in what, like, Dan was like, maybe there's some truth in what Brittany said. Like, maybe you shouldn't be in this industry. Like, maybe it's too much for you. Like, you can't handle it. It's, like, fucked up shit. Like, really, really. And it was, like, for 20 minutes, I'm crying there just listening to all these adults, like, tell me that I don't really matter, that I shouldn't have been in the industry to begin with, that I don't really have a voice, that everything that I felt is irrelevant, basically, and that I need to be professional and just suck it up. And that's it. And he was like, well, who knows what's going to happen to you? And then they started telling me, like, you know what happens to kid stars? Like, nothing ends up happening with them. Like, your only chance is, like, continuing the show for a while, because, like, after you're not on it, like, people fall off. And it was just, like, this brainwashing, like, just made me feel like completely nothing. It was just like nothing. I feel like nothing. Anyways, I, like, left.
Now, I know that was a lot, but the main point here is that Dan Schneider and Nickelodeon staff were well aware of the bullying going on and did nothing about it. In fact, Alexa was eventually fired for it and threatened by multiple people, including Schneider, that she would never work in the industry again. Keep in mind that Alexa was just a child going through this. The adults in the situation enabled this to happen. Alexa points out in a 2022 interview that Britney Spears has apologized to her for this incident. Nickelodeon has not. This is similar to the situation on Schneider's very first show with the network, All That. child actress Angelique Bates described a situation where Schneider would pull her aside and tell her not to take attention away from the other main cast of the show. And that's not all. Angelique also told interviewers that she was being abused by her mother on set, and that this would happen many times and everyone on set would turn a blind eye, enabling the abuse. It even went as far as CPS being called to the scene one day, and instead of defending her, Nickelodeon staff pressured her into saying she was not being abused. She was fired soon after that incident and was blackballed from the industry.
From 1992 to 1996, I was a series regular on Nickelodeon's All That. I was only 12 years old, and that's when my nightmare began. I was physically, mentally, emotionally abused in front of the producers and cast members, and sometimes they could even hear me yelling. But nothing was done to help me until approximately 1996 when CPS was called. And when CPS came, I was pressured by all the adults that were set to protect me to stay silent. I did, and I have. But I can no longer stay silent, and I won't. My name is Angelique Bates, and I am an adult survivor of child abuse, and this is my story.
Alexa Nikolas took matters into her own hands in August of 2022 when she protested outside of Nickelodeon headquarters. She names Dan Schneider as the creator of childhood trauma, a nod to McCurdy's name for Schneider in her book. This basically sparked Alexa's Eat Predators movement, as mentioned earlier. Protests are ongoing and have already made an effect, as Alexa has mentioned in one of the many podcast interviews she's done in the last few months. The movement went and protested at Warner Music dressed as Barbie dolls. The CEO of Mattel, the makers of Barbie, Jan Kreese, is also a board member of the Warner Music Group. Alexa hoped for him to see them as Barbie herself, going through the traumas that these predators have put young women through. This particular protest did end up working, as Kreese will be stepping down in January of 2023. Alexa also mentioned that her daily lunchtime protests at Nickelodeon have made employees not leave the building for lunch, effectively being seen and hopefully heard. I personally think it's amazing what this movement is doing, and how rapid the change is already starting is truly great. Alexa makes a point that I completely agree with as well. The abuse is not just a problem for child actors. Yes, it's much worse when this happens to children, because they have no idea how to speak up for themselves when it comes to these situations, and at times they don't even think they're allowed to, as they're just a kid. But Alexa puts it well when she says that no one deserves to work in that toxic and harmful environment, regardless of their age. These producers have so much power over the actors and other staff, especially the ones that are not big names and are just starting out. It's the same as the music industry, where producers will make their artists do terrible things and threaten them when they won't get their way. Click up here in the eye for an example of this happening to Lady Gaga in the music industry. Alexa has been very vocal on podcasts in the last few months since officially founding Eat Predators. When I saw that she was on the Vulnerable podcast with former Disney star Christy Carlson Romano, I knew there would be a lot for Alexa to say. Christy has also interviewed another former child star turned activist, Allison Stoner, and I love that everyone seems to be coming together for change. Christy does a great job of creating a safe space for her guests, and therefore guests feel comfortable to share things they may not otherwise share. For example, Alexa talked about her experience in wardrobe fittings on Zoey 101, and how Dan Schneider felt the need to be present for every single one of hers. In a small room with nothing but a curtain between her and the disgusting man, she would even hear his chair creaking while she was getting dressed. In another revelation, Alexa describes Dan Schneider walking around the set with a wad of money, asking around for kids to go in a room with him and let him take pictures of their feet.
So you had mentioned that Dan would be present at wardrobe fittings when you were 12?
Yes. Yeah. So there's always a curtain. It was in the trailer. And there was always a curtain, and I remember he was so close to the other side that I could hear the chair, creaking whenever I was changing. He would move and shift, and I could actually just hear it because it was right on the other side. And when I got older, I looked back at that, and
was like, oh, that's so weird. I don't remember any other creators in every single like wardrobe fitting.
Yeah, there's a reason there's Polaroids taken.
And he would ask for those Polaroids.
Yeah,
that
and
was
after they were
weird.
taken in the
Correct.
room.
So you're in the room and you also need the Polaroids. And I had to wear very, very short skirts to the point where I had to wear biker shorts underneath the skirts, and they had to cut the biker shorts because the biker shorts were longer than the skirts.
That's weird.
That's how short the skirts were on Dan Schneider shows, where we were having to wear biker shorts underneath that had to be cut because biker shorts were too long.
Yeah, that's not cool.
No, we're talking 12, 13 years old.
Yeah.
And then, so, that was a red flag for me. Him touching anyone on set is a red flag to me now, just because it was
Polaroid
children.
thing too, though, that you mentioned about the dollar bills and stuff.
So that wasn't even Polaroids, like a digital camera, and he would go around with money and ask to take photos of the kids' feet.
I'm sorry, yes, the kids' feet.
Yes.
The children's
feet.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
their toes.
Okay.
And I remember my mom going, don't go over there. My mom actually said no to it. But I saw other parents allowing their kids to do it.
In an interview also in August of 2022, Alexa Nikolas says Dan insisted on doing take after take of her co-star being hit in the face with slime. We're talking about a minor, Nikolas said. I think Jamie was 13 and they're squirting stuff on her face to make it look a certain way. Alexa isn't the only actress to say Schneider would redo takes to make them purposely imply an inappropriate context. Working at Nickelodeon was a dream come true for Daniella Monet, who also worked with Schneider on Zoey 101 in the 3rd season. Monet started acting at 8 years old and claimed that all she wanted was a gig at Nickelodeon, as it was the dream job of any aspiring child actor at the time. A dream come true started to feel like a nightmare when she starred as Trina Vega in Victorious. Daniella was always the butt of the jokes, and although she took any situation she was put in and made it completely her own, she recalls not always having a pleasant experience on set. Daniella was already 20 years old when she began working on Victorious, so she was much older than the rest of the cast. This meant she could work longer hours than the rest of them and could physically do more on set as well. She remembers the very long hours of filming and being put in a harness and thrown around so much that she actually says she's surprised she was able to get pregnant after what her body went through at the time, which is unsettling to say the least. Something I found interesting watching her interview with Anthony Padilla in his Nick Rewind days is that she seems like she really wants to share her experience, but maybe was waiting for the right questions to be asked. The implication that she was surprised she was able to get pregnant after her time working with Schneider is an unsettling one to say the least, especially when you consider the disturbing theories we'll discuss later on in part 2. Recently in 2022, Daniella tells Insider about the sexualized costumes and scenes that they had to endure on set. She recalls the costumes not being age appropriate for a children's television show, and even said she wouldn't wear some of that now as a fully grown adult. She also remembers personally being sexualized in a few episodes and Nickelodeon enabling that. She recalls a certain scene where she is eating a pickle and applying lip gloss at the same time. Monet claimed that she contacted Nickelodeon herself, sharing concerns that the scene was too sexual. Nickelodeon ignored her concerns and aired the episode anyway, with the scene still included. This was actually a scene in 2 separate episodes as well, which just shows that Nickelodeon clearly didn't care about the well-being of the actors or the sexualized content in their shows. Another Victorious star, Avan Joya, made this TikTok last year in 2021. Notice the caption says, "Not bizarre." This would definitely corroborate McCurdy's statement in her book that the creator encouraged her to drink underage and that the Victorious kids get drunk together all the time. As it seems, it was a common thing for children Schneider worked with to have been drunk on set. I'd also like to quickly point out that Avan's character Beck is proof of the sexualization not only being a problem for female-presenting child stars. Beck didn't do anything in the show, as pointed out by him in this TikTok.
I mean, he's sort of a...
He sang like one time, he danced maybe twice, He hardly ever acted except in brief classroom scenes. He was strictly there for the girls in the cast and fans to pawn over. To keep this from being an extremely long video, I'm going to put it into 2 parts. The next part will be about Dan's supposed foot fetish, inappropriate pictures with minors, and other conspiracy theories, as I'd like to keep this part as just the actor's experiences with him for now. If you liked this video, please give it a like and maybe say something in the comments. If you want to see part 2 or more videos like this, please make sure to subscribe or follow me on Twitter if you want. Links are always in the description for sources I used in this video. Really quickly, I'd like to apologize that this video took so long to come out, but I am working on part 2 and I'll have it up as soon as I can. Thanks for sticking around if you did, and thanks for watching.